Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of my travel back to Suriname in 2023 with my dad, reconnecting with my roots. Today we're visiting the plantation Rust en Werk. This is on the other side of the Suriname River, so we actually have to take a boat. These are totally different type of boats than the ones that you saw in the interior of Suriname. These have bigger engines, they're quite large, and as you can see, they have a roof. I think this journey takes just under 30 minutes, and then we reach on the other side, also called Kommerwijnen. Funny enough, they have a tractor and they especially when it's bad weather, allow you to sit on this little tractor and they take you all the way to the entrance. It would have been, I think, a 15-minute walk if we didn't have this type of transportation. Then we jump into a buggy. The driver explains that they use horses to herd the cattle around the farm. This particular area is where the cattle is herded to when they are ready for transport. Prior to 1947, when the VCM was established, this used to be a sugarcane plantation to produce the sugar for the Dutch candy company, the Yamin, which to this day still exists and is a flourishing Dutch company, just like many others who have their origins in a time of slavery. However, I digress. Let's talk about this beautiful farm instead. We are having so much fun getting this private tour of the owner, one of the actual grandchildren of the founders of the VCM company. Now they have 5,600 cattle divided in 53 herds and 20 caribou, 16 horses, 600 sheep and goats, making them the largest livestock farm in Suriname for sure when it comes to beef. They have their own slaughterhouses and manage 3,000 hectares of farmland with local workers. It is a gorgeous place, and not only do they farm, you can come and visit. You can stay, do tours, fish, ride horses. It is absolutely a gorgeous area and well worth the visit. And I really believe in empowering local companies, and despite its grim history, it is possible to turn it into something beautiful that actually helps the local community and population. The founder was an engineer, and he engineered all these locks around the property, managing the water that comes in and out of the property, whether it's rainwater, water in the creeks, water catchments and reservoirs, as well as managing the water that can actually come from the ocean, since this is a peninsula bordered by both the Suriname and the Kommerwijnen River. Water management is extremely important. Besides the livestock, there is quite a large diversity of wildlife on the property. Here we spotted a bird of prey. This is probably a very young bird. And they even told us that sometimes they lose a calf to a jaguar. And in the water, it's not uncommon to spot a caiman. Our private tour comes to an end, and we are treated to a delicious lunch of shawarma with fried cassava. On the boat trip back, we get to glimpse the Atlantic Ocean in the distance. This video would not be complete with a few snapshots of flowers and traffic, Paramaribo traffic. The welcome sight of the last stretch of road before we get back home to the tranquility of my dad's property. In the meantime, there's been some harvest. Awara nuts, bitter melon and sweet potato. Then my uncle arrives with the remaining ingredients. Remember a few videos ago I had a snapshot of some roots and leaves? Well, here is the complete package. All the ingredients necessary for a special fertility concoction that he will prepare. No ritual is complete in the Saramaccan culture without prayer, asking guidance from those who've gone before us. In this case, my dad will initiate the prayer, pouring bits of alcohol on the ground and calling out the names of my grandmother and all her sisters to come and help us. After the prayer, we're called over for instructions. Again, these are all done in the Saramaccan language. However, I am starting to catch some words here and there, but due to the significance, I will wait for my dad to translate. Some of the important instructions are about how to prepare the concoction. The pot always needs to be placed on that ring because all the ingredients, including the pan and the ring of leaves, have been used in the prayer or blessed by the prayer. The pot is not to touch any surface without that ring of leaves underneath it. Also, for the first time, I need to sprinkle some of the concoction in a triangle. Finally, I have to drink it on an empty stomach every morning facing the east. Now, this is by no means the literal translation because I don't exactly know what's being said here, but I get a rundown later from my dad in Dutch. That was him thanking my uncle and reinforcing the desire for me to be able to have children. Luckily, Jeannette has a whole supply of handcrafted calabash and she gifts me one. Then the concoction is done and I have to eat the egg first, leave it cool, face the east, and drink. The day is still young and there's a lot to be done. We head back over to the planting plot and here she replants some vegetables, does some weeding, digs the holes for the vegetables, all super efficient just with her machete. Next we head on over to the cassava plot. It's time to harvest these gigantic roots because we're prepping the meal to bake cassava bread in the following days. These cassava have grown to huge sizes. Just imagine the strength required to rip this out of the ground. Outside the frame, her son with the wheelbarrow is waiting. So we will be loading it up with as much cassava as we can carry. Each root is inspected to see if it has rot or has been eaten by the bush rabbits. In that case, she cuts off the parts that we cannot use. Now this is just the beginning. Swinging that machete like it's nothing. I'll remain quiet for the rest of the scene, just so you can enjoy the beautiful sounds and the hard labor that's being done. And quickly the dusk sets in, turning the afternoon to night. As we gather the last bits of cassava, the moon lights our way. I do wear a headlight. Here I try on the red light, no light, and white light. But we could have basically found our way back without any light at all. Little did I know that this was just about the easiest part of the process. As we returned with this huge pile of cassava, all these roots need to be peeled and washed immediately. Peeled by hand with a knife. My wrist gave out after 3 roots, so I was put to washing the cassava, but my goodness, peeling cassava by hand is absolutely the most strenuous thing I've ever tried. And then that meant it was all down to Jeanette, and she peeled that entire pile. Okay, my dad helped, but she did definitely most of the work. And today's last step would be the grating of the cassava into pulp. Luckily, this was done by machine. So here we are feeding the machine the peeled cassava. Do you see how many pieces of cassava? Okay, they were cut smaller to fit the machine, but my goodness, this is really, really a lot. I believe she told me the next day that she kept going to like 1 in the morning. I couldn't. I had to go to bed. Yep, I couldn't deal. I just couldn't keep up with her. Amazing woman. So it was time for me to go to bed. And this is the end of today's episode. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.